Welcome back. Here with us on Urban Debate on Mirror Now, Karnataka's Rural Development Minister K.S Eshwarappa, who's in the eye of a storm following allegations of corruption and his role in a contractor's suicide, will be tendering his resignation. He's now at Chief Minister Bommai's residence, where a sea of supporters can be seen. In a mega show of strength, over 100 vehicles followed Eshwarappa's convoy from Shivamogga earlier during the day. Also, former Karnataka Chief Minister BS Eshwarappa exuded confidence that K.S. Eshwarappa, who resigned from his ministerial post, would become a minister again soon. Eshwarappa is the second BJP minister who will be resigning within a span of 2.5 years of BJP rule in Karnataka. The opposition, remember, has been mounting pressure on the Karnataka government and has been protesting in the state, demanding a court-monitored probe. Let's straight away go across to my colleague Neha, joining us on the broadcast for more on this. Neha, good evening. You've been tracking the story very, very closely. What exactly is happening right now? Has Mr. Eshwarappa tendered his resignation? Okay, we'll go across to Neha in just a bit. In fact, let's go across to my guest joining us on the broadcast this evening, Mohan Krishna, spokesperson of the BJP, Nagaraju Yadav, spokesperson of the Congress party, live with us on the broadcast. Good evening to both of you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here on Urban Debate. Mohan Krishna, yesterday evening we saw Mr. Eshwarappa saying that he's ready to resign, but I believe he's yet to resign. What's really happening?
Good evening, Heena. I think you have to just wait for a few minutes now. Already he is there in Chief Minister's house and he is tendering his resignation. He will come out and speak about that, and Honorable CM will also talk about that.
But we're also seeing a show of strength in a way by the supporters of Mr. Eshwarappa. What is the message really that your party is trying to send? And what about the demand of a judicial probe that has also come from the family of Mr. Patil, who allegedly committed suicide, and from the opposition in the state of Karnataka? Mr. Krishna.
Heena, they will ask for the moon for everything. The government of the day knows what has to be done and how it has to be done. Already, Mr. Bommai, Honorable CM, has said that there will be impartial probe without any intervention of anybody. Let us see how the investigation takes place, and then the opposition has to talk about other issues. I'm very sorry to say for opposition, why you are asking that show of strength? I will send you that letter Santosh Patil has written to the Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi and Giraj Singh, RDPR Union Minister. In that letter, there is nothing of 40%. There is nothing about mentioning of K.S. Eshwarappa there. He is requesting there for just awarding the contract for him.
Okay, Mr. Mohan Krishna, I'll talk about that information in just a bit that you are telling, you're giving to our viewers. My colleague Neha is joining us live this evening because we are now getting to know that Mr. Eshwarappa has tendered his resignation. Neha, over to you. What is the latest that you can share with us?
Heena, we've just learned now that, in fact, Minister K.S Eshwarappa has gone in and he's likely to tender his resignation any minute now. What we are picking up is that, at the same time, you can see the heavy police deployment over here outside the Chief Minister's residence, where his supporters have, in fact, gathered in a large number. They're holding up the party's flag and they're demanding that, in fact, he not resign. Now, also, it is imperative to mention over here that, this has come after a lot of pressure has been mounted on him. He had announced yesterday that he would resign. And, in fact, we are still, of course, awaiting right now. Any minute now, we're expecting his resignation to come in. Now, it's not just K.S Eshwarappa. Several other senior ministers are also in the meeting that's underway right now. But important, again, Heena, to reiterate over here that the defiant minister has, in fact, said today that he would be resigning. Initially, we saw how he had taken a tone of complete, denial and said that he's not aware of who Santosh is, that there's no question of him resigning. But just about 24 hours after he said that, he himself announced that he would be resigning. Now, also, he has, in fact, gone on to say that after the investigation, he would be freed of all the charges that have been, in fact, levied against him. And most importantly, also, we'll have to wait and see the Congress party also in Karnataka still protesting, demanding that he be arrested. So, as far as the investigation is concerned, the most crucial aspect of this, we aren't seeing any headway as far as Mr. K.S Eshwarappa is concerned. Neither has he been called in for questioning. Neither are we seeing any sort of, police interaction as of now with him. So we'll have to wait and see what really pans out of this. Back to you.
So, Neha, after Mr. Eshwarappa tenders his resignation, is he likely to make a statement in front of the media? Have you got any such information? And what about other demand of the family and of the opposition of a judicial probe into this matter? What is it that the government there has to say?
Well, Heena, so far, whenever the Chief Minister BS Bommai has been questioned about this, he has just gone on to turn it around and say that during the Congress tenure, in fact, there were a lot of ministers, in fact, who had to resign. However, the prominent one over here being that of K.J. George as well. Even this morning, we heard the Karnataka Chief Minister BS Bommai saying that during the Congress's regime over here in Karnataka, K.J. George never really was arrested. So the CBI also, in fact, gave him a clean sheet at the time, is what he said. Now, important that, he's not really directly gone on to comment on the investigation or on any of the demands that the Congress has made of a judicial probe. We'll have to wait and see, possibly now that the resignation is, of course, coming in any minute now, whether or not, the BJP or the party over here in power in the state of Karnataka, the government, in fact, would be looking into this.
Right, Neha, thank you for the moment for joining us with all of those details. We will continue to show the live visuals you are bringing to us from outside the residence of Karnataka Chief Minister Mr. Bommai, and we'll come back to you as soon as there is some development where you are right now. Meanwhile, let me quickly take a reaction from the Congress party spokesperson Nagaraju Yadav, who's also live with us this evening. Mohan Krishna, spokesperson of the BJP, continues to be with us as well. Mr. Yadav, simultaneously, Congress's dharna is continuing because Congress party is demanding a court-monitored probe. But now we are being told, at least by sources, that he has tendered the resignation. What next as far as Congress is concerned and the allegation by the BJP?
From the day one, Congress has not only asked for resignation of Eshwarappa. This is a matter of corruption. Eshwarappa is to be named as Mr. 40% today. He has been involved in a corruption. The whole government is involved in a corruption. They have not framed charges against Eshwarappa in the matter of Prevention of Corruption Act. They have already filed a 306, IPC 306 with 34 abatement of suicide. This is not acceptable to us. We want a criminal charges to be filed against Eshwarappa because there is direct complaint by the wife of Mr. Santosh Patil, accused him saying that it is nothing but a conspiracy and a murder. And having said that, the entire episode of this case is about corruption of 40%, which is not only said by Santosh Patil, it is also the association, Contractors Association, year back, 10 months back, written letter to the Prime Minister and said that Karnataka government is completely functioning on the basis of corruption and on the basis of 40% commission. This government should take an action on these people who are involved in corruption. That was a demand of us, and we want an arrest of Eshwarappa because it's not only a abatement to suicide of 306 and with 34. It is a question of 302 and also the Prevention of Corruption Act should be enforced in place to take action. They are also trying to compare with Mr. George when the Siddaramaiah government was there. George's case was not against corruption. It was a question of promotion case was delayed for him, and that's how the person had mentioned it in that note. But in the end of the day, CBI had given a clear chit to Mr. K.J. George, and there is no corruption charges against Mr. K.J. George in that particular case. People cannot compare K.J. George case with Mr. Eshwarappa. Eshwarappa is involved and made a huge amount of money today. Right. It has to be investigated. investigated. And it is not only Eshwarappa, the entire government, whole cabinet is corrupt today. The entire, because of only one reason, Mr. Modi has said that he will not eat, nor he will not allow anybody to eat. But the administration is completely another way, completely opposite to his statements. And that's why we demand from the party, BJP trying to say they are the party with difference. Is the party of difference? Is this that collecting 40% of the contractors? Is it acceptable to the people of Karnataka? It is disaster.
Right.
Today it is a disaster and
Mohan
disappointing
Krishna,
today.
he actually faces two charges. One, abetment to suicide, and second, corruption charges that were leveled against him by Santosh Patil, who had to eventually commit suicide as per his last note, the suicide note that he sent via WhatsApp to his friends and family members, in which he very clearly mentioned how he was being harassed and he had named Mr. Eshwarappa. What about those
and
charges?
His PAs too. He has mentioned even including the PAs connected to his office.
You are asking
Mr.
me
Mohan
or
Krishna.
Yadav? Yeah. I will expose Congress
Mr.
to
Mohan
the
Krishna.
court today. I will expose Congress to the court today. Liars, just see this letter. Just see this letter, which has been written by Santosh Patil to Honorable
Why
Prime
are you
Minister
talking
Mr.
about this
Modi.
letter? I am
Don't
talking
talk.
about basically
Don't talk
the
in
complaint
between.
is against
No
Eshwarappa.
liars. Don't
Eshwarappa
talk.
is a man with 40%. His
Don't
name itself
talk.
Mr. 40%.
Heena, you ask
Today
him to
whole
stop.
government is running on 40%.
Heena, I
Where
will not
Mr. Modi said
participate.
very
We will ask
clearly
him to
that he will
stop.
not allow people to
Mr.
eat.
Yadav,
He will
Mr.
not allow
Yadav, let him
people to eat.
respond. Let him respond. I will give you time to make your point as well. Mr. Mohan
He has
Krishna,
never
please go
mentioned
ahead. Firstly,
anything.
respond to the straight question that I have asked you.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'll expose Congress today. There is nothing mentioned Eshwarappa in this letter. What he has
There is
written
a
to
complaint
the
against
Honorable.
him.
No, please don't
There is a
talk.
WhatsApp message about him.
I will not
Mr. Mohan
participate.
Krishna,
This is
there is
not
a
the way.
limit of telling
Okay,
lies.
one at
The
a
country is
time.
watching
Gentlemen,
the
one
BJP
at a
today.
time. Mr. Yadav, one
This is the
second.
culture
Let
of
him
the Congress.
respond.
This is the
There
culture
are
of the
certain
Congress.
questions that you have raised.
culture
Let
of the
Mr. Mohan
Congress.
Krishna now respond. I'll come back to you. Okay, gentlemen, let's have a civil debate, please. Mr. Yadav, one second. Let him respond. I'll come back to you. Mr. Krishna, go ahead.
There in that letter, what he has written to Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi, as well as to Mr. Giraj Singh, RDPR Minister, there is nothing, no mention of Eshwarappa or 40% cut or anything. And it has written very clearly, his associates, minister's associates, he has written, annoying for money. That's all. The request letter is for requesting the Prime Minister and the Honorable RDPR Minister. I will show one more letter to you. One more letter written by RDPR Minister Giraj Singh to the RDPR Secretary. They are asking for the clarification. This is what is the country's government, BJP government is doing. Not like Nagaraju Yadav talking today. Congress is lying to the country. 40%. Let me show you another letter, Contractors Association letter. In that letter, it is nowhere mentioned 40% commission.
What about the last message that Santosh Patil had sent to his friends and family members, in which he had named Mr. Eshwarappa?
Let me come to that also.
What about the charge by the family members of Mr. Santosh Patil, Mr. Mohan Krishna?
Yes. Let me tell you. Let me first answer to you on WhatsApp message. On WhatsApp message, he has mentioned Eshwarappa is responsible and Yadurappa and Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi has to take care of my family. He has mentioned that. That will be investigated further. Whether he has sent the message or it has come from his mobile or something. That after the investigation, we will come to know. Coming to their family, within 1 hour of his death, they are talking everything. Lakshmi Hebbalkar, Congress MLA, is there. She is the MLA of that Hindalga village, where the work done by Santosh Patil was there. Don't you think that MLA will object to all these works? Without work order, if you go on, if I come
But
to...
Mr. Krishna, I will get Mr. Yadav to respond to what you are saying, but I have a very straight question for you. So, you are now trying to say that it is Congress party that is responsible for Santosh Patil's death? Is that what you're trying to say?
Let the investigation happen. It will be revealed whether it is Congress.
So, why is the investigation not happening then?
No, we have
Why
started
is the investigation
Two
not
teams have
happening?
been-
If Mr. Eshwarappa has not done anything, why has he not been questioned so far in this particular case, Mr. Krishna?
Heena, he is tendering his resignation.
Let the investigation happen. He has
That's
not
what-
been questioned even once in this matter.
Two teams have been made. One team has already gone to Udupi. They have detained two persons who was there with Santosh Patil. Another team has gone to Belgaum. They are collecting the information from the family also. After that, the accused will be called. First, you have to take the information. You have to give time to the investigation officer. IO.
Okay.
How can
Mr.
Congress
Yadav,
lie
now this is
40%?
one
They are
argument we
liars.
are getting
Congress
again
is a
and again
liar.
that it is Congress
Siddaramaiah is a
party
liar.
which is using contractors to target the BJP.
I definitely will not agree for this allegation. Point to one, point to point, I would like to answer Mr. Mohan Krishna. He is just telling that there is a Congress MLA working in that particular Belgaum Gramin constituency. I want to know who is the MP from there. It was Suresh Angadi's wife, Mangala Angadi is the MP from there. Who is the Gram Panchayat Adhyaksh? May I know who is the Gram Panchayat Adhyaksh? Is it BJP's person, Nagesh? Nagesh Manulkar is the Gram Panchayat Adhyaksh, who coming from BJP. And who is the entire government administration is with them. The
Is he
DC is with
authority,
them,
Mr.
CEO is
Nagaraju
with them, executive wait,
Is he
Mr. Mohan, wait.
authority to give work order?
CEO is with them, executive engineers are with them, chief
Is he
engineers are with
authority?
them. How did they allow the
issue
illegal work to
order,
happen
is he
there?
authority?
The basic idea is, Mr. Mohan,
What are
please
you
wait.
talking? Why
I
are
want
you
to answer
fooling
you is
people?
this is a conspiracy and a
Why are you
murder
fooling
of
people,
Mr.
Mr.
Suresh Patil
Nagaraju?
because he was exposing
This is what you do in all channels.
Why the
I've seen
murder
you.
charges is not
You
filed
fool the
against him?
people.
Why the prevention
Congress
of
is lying.
corruption charges are not filed?
40%
You know it
is a
very well.
lie.
There is a completely the entire case is standing on the corruption
Okay,
case. Why the
okay,
Corruption Act
gentlemen,
has
both of
not
you
been
please
implemented?
calm down. Both of you please calm down.
Yeah, I would like to tell
I
you,
want to
madam,
give the last word to Mr. Mohan Krishnan very quickly. I am
No, let me
completely
complete
out
it,
of
madam.
time.
Let me complete it. Let
Will
me
there
complete
be
it.
a
Mr.
probe
Mohan
into the
Krishna, his
corruption
party is
charges
completely
also
corrupt
or
party in
not?
Karnataka. They should be dismissed immediately.
Miss Heena, I straight away on your show, I will tell you, if required, any probe will be done. If found guilty, anybody for that matter, they will be punished. Whether it is Eshwarappa or anybody for
proper
that matter.
charges
All
first.
right.
No, please don't talk. Please don't talk.
Kindly
You
file a
don't have
proper
words to
charges,
talk.
murder charge to be filed, Prevention of
Oh.
Corruption Act to
Who
be
are you?
invoked.
Are you an investigating
I
officer?
am a citizen of the
Are you
country.
an IPS
I am a
officer?
citizen, I am principal
All
opposition
right,
party.
all right,
I am
gentlemen.
This is a bloody
court.
democracy.
Okay, gentlemen. Let's keep
You
it
should understand
civil,
this is
please. I'm
democracy.
completely
We
out
are
of time, but I
opposed to
appreciate
you.
both
It is
of
not-
you
it is
for the
not-
moment
it
for
is
joining
not
us here on
dictatorship.
Urban Debate on Mirror Now. Many questions still remain. Congress's dharna is continuing, and in a short while from now, we are also expected to see Mr. Eshwarappa coming out of the residence of Karnataka Chief Minister, and hopefully he'll make a statement as well. So we'll keep you updated on that story as well. For the moment, heading into a short break. Stay with us.